A day after reaching Indonesia as part of his 5-day visit to three Southeast Asian nations, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi began his day by paying homage to martyrs in Indonesian freedom struggle at the Kalibata National Heroes Cemetery in the capital Jakarta. He also signed the visitors' book at the Heroes Cemetery. Prime Minister Modi was later received at the Presidential Palace and where he inspected a guard of honor. Addressing a joint press briefing with Indonesian President Joko Widodo, Prime Minister Modi highlighted the joint interests between the two countries in the Indo-Pacific region. This is Prime Minister Modi's first ever official visit to Indonesia. Later in the day, Prime Minister Modi will be attending an event organized by the Indian diaspora. After the Indonesia visit, Prime Minister Modi will make a brief halt in Malaysia to congratulate the new Malaysian leadership. He will leave for Singapore on 31st of May for a 3-day visit, which will be his second official visit to the island city-state. Prime Minister Modi has said that the focus of his Singapore visit is to enhance the bilateral partnership. He will also deliver the keynote address at the Shangri-La Dialogue on June 1st. Prime Minister Modi is in Indonesia. This is his first state visit to the country. He will also make a brief halt at Malaysia, where he will congratulate the new leadership. Earlier, Prime Minister held talks with the Indonesian President Widodo. Prime Minister Modi will also attend a CEO Business Forum, which will be organized by the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Confederation of the Indian Industry as well. Prime Minister Modi was seen greeting the visitors there. He is in Jakarta. This is his first official visit to Indonesia. Prime Minister Modi also paid homage to the martyrs of Indonesian independence struggle. He laid a wreath at the Kalibata National Heroes Cemetery in Jakarta. Now, the Kalibata Heroes Cemetery in South Jakarta is a military cemetery in Indonesia. It's an important place where 7,000 people who were in military casualties and veterans from Indonesian war of independence were buried. And after finishing his Indonesia visit, Prime Minister Modi will be going to Malaysia, as we told you. He will be congratulating the new Malaysian leadership. Post that, he will go to Singapore on a 3-day visit. Joining us live on the program is our political editor, Karthikeya. I believe you have someone with you.
Yes, absolutely, because today the Prime Minister is also going to have a meeting with business leaders. It's a packed day for the Prime Minister to make out as to how the business deals, defense deals and infrastructure deal will be hampered out. I'm joined by Mr. Sachin Gopalan, an author who runs Indonesia Economic Forum, and someone who has studied India-Indonesia culture, economy, and he's a noted authority on it. Sachin, is this trip going to make a difference to India and Indonesia relationship? Is it going to go to the next level?
Well, I think it will, because, it's been a long time in waiting. I've been here 21 years now, and we've been seeing the momentum has been gradually building up. And the unfreezing or the unthawing has taken place already a few years ago. So we look at this as a huge opportunity, because if you look at these two countries, India and Indonesia, they are among the largest democracies in the world. And the opportunity to be connected actually exists from the historical roots of India and Indonesia. So there's no reason why this should not culminate into a fruitful relationship into the future. Especially if you're looking at now, the world is going digital. Digital transformation is big. This market is known to be a country where digital transformation is going to change the way everything happens here, because the country is very complicated. There are 3 time zones, 16,000 islands. Transportation from one to another is such a big challenge. So digital is the way to go forward. Now, who better than India to help Indonesia in the journey of digital transformation? So I see there's a huge opportunity going forward.
But is there a strategic interest also? Generally people reduce the relationship to vis-a-vis in opposition to China. Apart from that, are there any other opportunities for the Indian business and the Indonesian business?
I would say, one must look at the cultural context. Okay, nowadays you look at businesses. You have the hard side of business, which is you're looking at commodities, you're looking at manufacturing, etc. But if you look at the soft side of how business is done, you go back to the ways of how the origins of India and Indonesia, going back thousands of years. You find that there is a very strong cultural connect. And I think a lot of people agree that today cultural connect forms a new way of defining a relationship that can take it in a completely different direction. Does India have a cultural connect with very many other countries? Or does Indonesia in turn have? Very much the relationships with the trade partners and the business partners are very hard business relations. India and Indonesia have an opportunity to look at the softer side, the cultural connect side. And I think that's an opportunity that's not been explored, to be honest. Mm-hmm. So I see that being an opportunity which might have a very different result compared to any other partner.
Are you saying that the common cultural codes relating to Buddhism and Hinduism connects and deepens our relationship with Indonesia and can actually flower into a wider strategic relationship?
I believe so. I'll give you a good example. If you look at Indonesia, and the first thing that strikes you when you come here is that you have actually Ramayana, Mahabharata here. Not from a religious perspective, but from a cultural perspective. It is in the folklore of the people, regardless of what religion they are from. They may be Islam, they may be Buddhist, but they still have Ramayana, Mahabharata stories woven into their, folklore.
And even the names like Rati, Lakshmi, common names.
Very, very common names. In fact, even the word Indonesia, if you look at how it's coined, it's the Latin word Indus, which is India, and the Greek word Nisos, which is actually islands. Mm-hmm. So Indonesia, from the very name itself, there is a connect. So, we tend to overlook history because history is today compressed for us. Mm-hmm. But, there are thousands of years where things have evolved and things have happened between the two countries. The cultural connects are extremely strong. You can feel it when you actually walk on the streets, you meet the people. The connect between Indians and Indonesians is much stronger than you would find against other nationalities or ethnicities.
So are you saying that the Prime Minister Modi with his cultural diplomacy is making a difference, especially in countries which are culturally connected with India?
I think this is a direction that has not been happening before. So Prime Minister Modi has definitely taken a step in the right direction. And opening these doors is going to open new opportunities. And I can see they say that even with what I'm doing in Indonesia Economic Forum.
But there are a lot of problems. The medicine expensive. Indians don't get visa on arrival. I found out that the basmati rice is not readily available in Jakarta. People pine for Indian short-leaf tea. You're not getting your bhujiyas, which Indians are very fond of. There is no visa of arrival for Indians there. Medical facilities, educational facilities. They want their kids to be educated in Indian institutions. Because they're far better. I'm not saying that Indonesian institutions are bad, but Indian institutions like healthcare and education is far better. And I heard all these problems and I was stunned.
No, you're very right. These are problems, but they are problems of today. You know, if you were to fast forward 5 to 10 years, would you still have?
I'm saying that
problems?
the cultural connect should have real connect. You know, the real thing.
Have real connect. I think it is in the process, right? So I can see that, you know, by bringing up these issues, we are finding solutions to these very fast. So the will is there and the interest is there. You see. So I find that you know, these are challenges which are short-term challenges. They are happening because of changes in the system that's taking place here. There are two new governments in India as well as here, right? And they're relatively new. So there's challenges of, you know, how do you smoothen those requirements of the people of both countries in, you know,
But
in each
Prime Minister today mentioned radicalization. You know, it's the biggest Muslim majority nation in the world. India has the largest minority. And the Prime Minister Modi spoke about radicalization. Do you think it's a challenge in Indonesia for business, for opportunities, the radicalization which is emanating from West Asia?
From West Asia, actually that's the core point. If you look at Islam in Indonesia, it is a completely different brand or a type of Islam. It's not the same thing that's coming from the Middle East, for example, right? But if you see the way the Indonesians are looking at how radicalization is taking place, it is a new influence. It is not actually endemic to Indonesia. All this radicalization is happening in the last, I would say, 8 to 10 years. Maybe if you dig a little deeper, going to 15 years. So I think the government here, I have seen strong will to actually tackle this. And I think it needs help from countries like India, which has got a track record of finding how the communities peacefully coexist with each other. So, you know, it's an important lesson or sharing that the two countries can do with each other to help not allow such forces to overtake in development.
And last question, you know, what's the first baby step one should take? You don't even have a flight directly from New Delhi to Jakarta.
Again, I've been part of this discussion for the last 2 years, actually. I've been in Delhi in the Diaspora Conference as well. It's actually pure economics, why there's no direct flight. And the only solution to that is not forcing a direct flight. Because, you know, I've seen a lot of direct flights.
Bali has a direct flight from Mumbai just because it's a tourist hub.
That's a tourist hub. So what are the compelling reasons for a direct flight to Jakarta? And actually the problem, if you dissect it, is because India has too many cities which need to be serviced. If you do a direct flight between Delhi and Jakarta, that doesn't work. Because a lot of people, they need to go to Delhi and then take another flight from there. Whereas if you hub out of KL or Singapore or Bangkok, you can go to the city where you actually want to end up. So you're talking about a 2-flight step anyway. So the challenge of a direct flight in India must be connecting at least 4 or 5 major cities. It won't happen with just one city. So these are again, you know, identified problems. Commercially, how can they be viable? Is only when business grows. So I see this as a problem that has been, you know, flagged. It's been red marked. I think in 3 to 4 years, you would find solutions where the business and trade interaction between the two countries will create an automatic reason for.
But you say business or trade. You know, this is my last question to you. But then Indians don't get their stuff, which means that you have a business issues. You know, I remember the gentleman asking a question on bovine meat and the tax on the palm oil or palm sugar. And then when I go out, I meet the expats. They say no bhujia, no basmati rice. You know, and no tea. Why? This is trade. This is, I think, bureaucracy.
Absolutely right. That's why Prime Minister's visit here is very important, because, you know, these issues tend to get brushed under the carpet. You know, typically what has happened in Indonesia is the Indian community tends to take a back seat. They don't want to be too out there in front. They want to be a low profile. Okay, this has been happening for the last 25 to 30 years.
Unlike Singapore.
Unlike Singapore. So now you're finding that there are good reasons for all these issues to come out to the front. And Prime Minister's visit here is an example of how such issues will be taken up and will be addressed, because, you know, now it's playing out to the international audience. Okay. Now these are issues that, and these steps are absolutely important. So if you're talking about baby steps, these are all baby steps in sorting out Basmati these problems. Basmati is very much a part of it. Basmati is political as well. You know what I mean, right? Rice is, both are rice eating countries. And it's a very significant, symbolic statement to make that you don't have your products that you need in each of the countries. It's true. It has to be facilitated. I think the visit like this kind of shows the importance of how you need to smoothen.
Why is Basmati political?
No, I wouldn't say political really, but what I mean is that availability of rice in rice-eating nations is close to the heart. You know, rice, fuel, etc. These are things that matter to people. So, you know, we always say that if people are well-fed and they're looked after, then they are looking at the next steps of what they can do. You should not be talking to people who are hungry. So I think with that relation between the two countries can be smoothened by making goods available, which are actually desired on both sides. I just came back from India and I brought a whole suitcase full of things that my wife wanted because of this problem.
Which was?
Which was like atta and rice and a few other spices, etc. Because at the moment, things are not available. It's a fact.
Okay.
But these are problems have come and gone. I'm saying I've been here for 20 years. We've had phases where this happened and it went away.
So
this happened and went away.
So I'm not the only one. You heard Mr. Sachin Gopalan speaking, who has been living in Indonesia. The rice is a real problem, and he put it very well. The two rice-eating nations, the whole of South India eats rice. Rice is also eaten in the North. It's not like 100 years back. Indonesia is a rice-eating country, and these are the baby steps which the government can take. And very soon there's going to be a press conference. Back to you.
Right, Karthikeya, that does give us an intense discussion about rice there. But thank you for joining us with those details, and thank you to your guest as well.